It was a Melbourne mother who has been diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. She is not a permanent resident of Australia, so she's not eligible for Medicare. The treatment's very expensive. This family's now considering having to sell their home in order to fund this treatment.
So many more cancer rates and so many younger people are getting cancer.
I'd like to still consider myself a young person, but yeah.
We are young.
The person with lymphoma to go overseas for treatment because it's a lot cheaper. With a payout of trauma insurance, it's a lump sum payment you get. So you can either use that for treatment here, or maybe it might help you get treatment overseas.
You know, you may want to go home. You may feel more comfortable speaking to the doctors in your own native language. You may want to go, actually, I want to go to Bulgaria and I want to talk to my friends and speak Bulgarian and know exactly what's going on. That kind of just tells me like, it feels like, oh, this will never happen to me, but something like cancer, it's so close to all of us.
It is.
Hey there, welcome back to another deep dive episode. Today we've got one of our excellent advisors, Kathleen Dean. Thanks for joining us, Kat.
Hello.
So there was an article on the ABC and the article says Melbourne mother says her medical insurer won't cover the treatment and that could save her life. So we decided to do a deep dive around private health insurance, Medicare, personal insurance, and how it all mixes together and how do we protect ourselves from any of these gaps. So to kick us off, can you talk to us about this story?
Yeah, sure. So I found this article on the ABC. It was a Melbourne mother who has been diagnosed with a rare form of cancer called, it's lymphoma, so a type of blood cancer. And she was informed that she needs to have this very specialized treatment, which is probably one of the only things that would actually help her get through it. And the thing is that she is not a permanent resident of Australia, so she's not eligible for Medicare. So they took out private health insurance under the assumption that that would help if like something like cancer were to happen, will cover part of the treatment. It turns out, due to the terms under that private health insurance policy, that it doesn't cover that type of treatment. So there was some particulars in there. And the treatment's very expensive. Like we're looking at $600,000 plus.
Yep.
So this family's now considering having to sell their home in order to fund this treatment. So I thought it'd be good to kind of look into this, look into how Medicare and private health insurance doesn't always cover everything that people might think it does, and where personal insurances like trauma insurance could cover that gap.
Yeah, cool. All right, so that's kind of the impetus of this deep dive, but we don't know the details of the actual case.
We don't know
so
the
we're
full
not going to
details.
like go into speculate, you know, what Medibank Private should or shouldn't have done. So we don't know the policy, but let's just talk at a high level. Like, how does things like cancers, how is it covered under the three different kind of options: personal insurance, private health, and Medicare? Yeah.
So cancer can be covered like under some Medicare funded treatments, but it doesn't always cover the full cost of everything. So some people might find that they do have some out-of-pocket costs that they do still need to fund. Or either that, or they have to go on a waiting list to go through Medicare and not have to pay for it out of their own pocket. Then there is the private health insurance side of things. So that can help people get kind of like fast track their care, where they can't get it through Medicare straight away, or Medicare just doesn't cover it. In this particular case, so these clients had private health insurance, but under the terms of the policy, like specifically, it said that because this type of treatment, which is called, now I know we don't like acronyms, but I actually don't know what it stands for.
Yeah, let's go for the acronym.
It's an immunotherapy treatment called CAR T cell therapy. So I've got no idea what CAR stands for. But T cells are a thing, apparently, in Medicare, in medical definitions. But anyway, because this doesn't have a MBS item number, some Medicare benefit scheme. So when you go to the doctor and you make a claim on, you get bulk billed or whatever, there's like a number attached to it. This type of treatment isn't covered under that, which means under their Medibank private health insurance policy, it's not covered as a form of treatment. Yeah. So that was a big gap where they found that they've gotten some payments from Medibank. So I don't want to say like, oh, Medibank doesn't pay anything, but it's not going to go anywhere near to covering the full treatment. Like I think the article mentioned they've paid out $60,000, But when the actual total cost of the treatment is 600,000, that's only 10% of that treatment. So there's a massive gap there that they're having to consider how they will fund that.
And the reason why this matters a lot is because I just Googled it now. So if this is wrong, blame Google. There's 2.84 million people in Australia who are visa holders.
Wow.
And so Medicare doesn't cover you unless you're a permanent resident or a
Correct.
citizen of Australia. So one thing, I think it's actually a requirement of the visa. I do remember an old client had to get it as part of their visa requirements. You have to get privately funded private health insurance.
Yeah.
And so it is a requirement. Because these things aren't captured under Medicare, and that's like 10% of Australia's population is a visa holder.
That's a lot.
Now, a big portion are student visas. Again, this Google search I just looked at now is 720,000 student visa holders. So there may be some limitations when it comes to getting insurance, but trauma is accessible if you're a student visa holder. So this may seem like a fairly niche kind of case, but it will represent about 10% of our population will come underneath this kind of needing private health insurance.
Yeah.
So it is important to talk about. So I guess my question is, would like private insurance cover, so not private health, but our own individual personal insurance cover, does it cover for things like this?
Yes, so trauma insurance is the type of cover that will pay out a lump sum if you are diagnosed with a specified condition, and cancer is one of those. And I actually had a look at the product disclosure statements, and they do mention like lymphoma is like a type of cancer as well. The only limitations might be sometimes if it's an early stage, very early stage cancer, but I also decided to look up lymphoma specifically, and it's very, very rare to have a very early stage type of lymphoma. So trauma insurance will pay out a lump sum if you are diagnosed with a condition, and it doesn't necessarily need to mean that you've actually taken time off work. You just need a diagnosis. So that's something that's really important to differentiate. And I do have, I know someone personally who did fall into that bracket where a previous advisor I used to work with, if you're watching this video, hi, when I was working with him, so he actually discovered a lump underneath his tongue, and it turned out to be early stage cancer, and he needed to have a surgery to have it removed. And I remember he was off of work for a few weeks, but it had a pretty quick recovery. But definitely not long enough to make an income protection claim, which normally has at least a 30-day waiting period. But he came back to work, had a full recovery, and had his full trauma policy paid out. So I just wanted to clearly specify there that trauma is not, you don't need to have stopped working to make a claim.
And there may be instances like in this situation, I don't think we have any clients with a $600,000 trauma policy.
No.
Some other advisors may recommend, big, sums insured for clients, but we wouldn't recommend this much cover. So there is a gap. The great thing about private health, if it does cover it, is that spending, as the medical treatment goes up, then the private health insurance provider will cover, a portion of that. Yeah. But if the spending is much lower, then it will cover much lower. So I guess the thing I wanted to say is trauma insurance isn't the only option. It's not like get trauma insurance, that's a perfect option, scrap everything else. It is one of many mechanisms we can use to make sure we're protecting ourselves. Now, I love this stat from Zurich, one of the insurers, is it does talk about health spending in Australia. And I've used this many, many times. So individuals are spending $33.7 billion on health spending. And what year is that? Between 21 and 22. So that financial year. Now, $13 billion is spent on medication, either partly not subsidised through PBS, including over-the-counter or vitamins. $6.7 billion was spent on dental services. $5 billion was spent on both referred and unreferred medical services, and then the list goes on to like hospital services. Now that's individuals paying that themselves. Now health insurance funds are contributing $17.5 billion towards all health spend in Australia. Now the state and local governments spend $70 billion. they're spending a lot of money, and then the federal government over $105 billion. So there's a lot of money that governments contribute towards health spending, but as individuals, we're spending just under double what the health insurance providers are spending. So I think that's sometimes a misconception in the market is, I've got health insurance, I actually don't need trauma.
Everything.
It'll cover me for that stuff.
It's a thing that clients often say to me. I'm like, oh, but I've got private health insurance. Isn't that enough? I'm like, well, it might help a bit, but it may not cover the full cost of your treatment. So,
And so talk to me about like what else does trauma insurance or critical illness insurance cover?
Yep. So trauma insurance also covers, so the three most common conditions that we mention are cancer, which we've already mentioned, heart attack or cardiovascular related conditions, and stroke. So those are the three major health conditions that it covers, but it also covers things like multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, Parkinson's disease, muscular dystrophy, things like that as well.
Yeah. And it was funny the other week, the one insurance company have changed their definitions because they change all the time. Medical treatment changes all the time. So they changed their definitions on their policy within trauma to not just say open heart surgery, but open chest surgery. And so me and Trent made a joke about them being more inclusive around the chest. But yeah, these medical definitions will change over time, and the insurers keep up with that and make sure, okay, if a doctor doesn't diagnose in a certain way, but still, it's within the spirit of what we originally intended, then they'll update the definitions too. Yep. So, medical practitioners may say, well, it's open chest surgery when we're working on your heart. It's still the same thing as open heart surgery, but they're just going to update their way of saying it. So I thought that was a funny update to a policy.
Yeah, it is. It does seem a lot more inclusive.
Yeah. And so cancer rates, I feel like I'm reading every second article over the weekend is about cancer increasing. So many more cancer rates and so many younger people are getting cancer. So do you have any information about that or anything to discuss on that?
Yeah, it's a bit scary actually. As I'd like to still consider myself a young person, but yeah.
We are young.
We are still young, aren't we?
I know I'm older than you, but I'll group us together and say we are young. Yes.
Yeah. So in terms of some stats, so I had to look up this acronym as well. Everything is done by acronyms. So AIHW, which is the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare. So with their projections they've done previously, so this is back from starting in 2024, but they predicted 169,000 cancer cases in 2024. And they expect this to increase to 209,000 per year by 2034. So within, 10 years, it's going to increase by 50,000.
Yeah, which is, what are we talking, 30% increase or something ridiculous.
Yeah, so it's a crazy amount of increase. And of course, population growth is a big factor in that. We've got more people in Australia. So of course, you're going to have, as a percentage-wise, you're going to have more people with cancer. But they're also finding... of course, aging does play a part too, but then you do have younger people also being diagnosed with cancer, particularly colorectal cancers do seem to be on the rise. So that is making me more mindful of what I eat and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely something that seems to be either we're detecting it better or more people are getting it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things about when I'm no longer client facing and not sitting in front of clients and talking to them about trauma needs, but if clients ever are like, oh, I'm not too sure about if I need this or I've got private health insurance, I would often say, do you know anyone in your life who has had cancer? I don't think we can find too many Australians who don't have an experience either themselves as an individual, someone close to them or a family member who has had a cancer experience. And so that kind of just tells me it feels like, oh, this will never happen to me. But something like cancer, it's so close to all of us.
It is.
That's why, yes, private health insurance is important to make sure you're covering the expenses, but what private health insurance doesn't cover is time off work or is just a bucket of money just in case there is some term and condition that it doesn't cover. The good thing about trauma is, as you said, as long as your cancer is at a certain stage, you'll get the full trauma. It doesn't really matter what it is.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was talking to Matt earlier today. He called himself a trauma nerd, and I clarified with him he's a nerd overall, but just like we're insurance geeks, the trauma insurance is something that's super important because of how prevalent it is.
Definitely.
Cool. So, Kat, can you talk to me about some of Skye's experience when it comes to trauma insurance, either cancer or non-cancer claims?
Yeah, so I believe at Skye since July 2023, we have had a few trauma claims, unfortunately, despite a lot of our clients being at a younger age. And I did have a quick look at our previous claims, and we've had 7 that have been related to cancer, and then another 2 to 3 which are non-cancer. So one of those, I believe, was a brain aneurysm. Trauma, I think a lot of people think that just because they're young, they're not going to get cancer, they're not going to have a brain aneurysm or something like that, but unfortunately it does happen to people.
I mean, like I'm more involved in the claims, at Skye than you are.
Yeah.
But it is shocking how young our clients are having cancer. There's breast cancer, like it's non-discriminate. There is so many cancer cases that we have, and trauma insurance, unlike almost any other insurance, it's very easy to claim on.
Yes.
Like we had a client who got paid, I think, within 7 days of lodging the claim, like money in the bank account. So, unlike income protection, as you mentioned before, you've got to have time off work, to then qualify, and then you've got to prove, okay, do you qualify from a medical point of view? TPD is, can you never work again? And so you've got to qualify for that mechanism, which can be quite difficult to prove. Trauma, it's let's look down these conditions. If you tick, if we have medical evidence that you have one of these, then tick, claim is paid straight away. There's no real, I mean, life insurance is relatively easy, but even life insurance, to be honest, you've still got to, go through, get a death certificate.
Get a death certificate.
If there's any kind of issues or concerns, it needs to go to the coroner. Sometimes that can delay it. So even life insurance policies, which are really black and white, are you dead or you're not, theoretically really simple, it's actually harder to get a life insurance claim or can take a little bit longer, than a trauma claim because it's like, great, well, not great, you've got cancer, but unfortunately you've got cancer. Now here's, money in the bank account.
Yeah. I do mention this sometimes to clients that trauma can be one of the quickest insurances to pay out.
Yeah, I mean, easily. That's been our experience is generally speaking, the only time we've had any difficulty is if the insurance company has gone and made an assessment and said it actually doesn't qualify for the claim. And there's, trauma insurance still has, a list of conditions that it will and won't pay out on. So you may have some medical event that is really impactful to your overall life and health that you won't get paid a trauma event for. And so, there may be stories like this ABC one in those events. But again, this is why, things like income protection are really important because, okay, you will have something there. You will be protected if you can't work because of it, even if that trauma policy is not there. So it is important to have a suite of products. So talking on claims and, I was talking about, some things not paying out. Like, we have, I ask these questions even though I know the answer. What are the claims acceptance rates when it comes to trauma?
Yeah, so I did actually just look this up today because I think they update it every year on the Money Smart website.
You normally actually update it every 6 months.
Oh, so it's a bit slow at the moment.
Yeah, they're delayed. They're always delayed, but they normally do 6-month increments.
Okay.
But yeah, it always takes a while for them to update the numbers.
Yeah. Through the 2024 calendar year, the trauma claims acceptance rates, and I'm talking about through a financial advisor, were between 82% to 96%, depending on the insurer. So just to break down what an acceptance rate means, it means that of all the insurance claims submitted, how many of them were accepted by the insurer and a claim paid out. So 82% to 96%. It doesn't mean that the insurer was just like, nah, I don't want to pay your claim. It's more that some of those claims that were submitted were not actually like a trauma condition payout.
Yeah. Or there are other things like non-disclosure concerns. So if someone, let's say worst case scenario, goes and makes a claim on cancer, but was getting investigated for that same cancer prior to getting the application, but they didn't tell the insurance company, the insurance company will decline that claim. So sometimes those things get captured in those acceptance rates. Also, some of the things are, most of the time it's legitimate. Like I'm going to claim on trauma for if I do an ACL. Now, that's not a part of the trauma policy. And so, there's no mechanism to stop someone from making a claim, even though it's like I crashed my car, so I'm going to claim on my home insurance policy. They're going to decline it because it's not a part of the policy. So, one of these claim statistics are important for sure, and claims acceptance rates. And we actually have it in every one of our advice documents, what the claims acceptance rates are, and because they are important, but we wouldn't recommend not using an insurance company because their claims acceptance rates are low, or definitely use this company because their claims acceptance are really high. And I guess the reason for that is it only looks at a 12-month window. That's my feedback to ASIC. If you're listening, please improve your Money Smart website to have a 5-year window. If we had 5 years, then we could reasonably take those and make a recommendation off the back of that. If one insurance company is historically well under the average, okay, we'll ask more questions. But over a 12-month window, it is much harder to make
a judgment there.
Yeah, make a judgment on that. Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about, with this ABC article, the person in the article was a visa holder. So non-permanent resident, non-citizen. So that's the big kind of concern or issue. Talk to me about, is that a concern when it comes to getting trauma insurance? Can you still get trauma insurance or personal insurance cover if you are a visa holder?
So if you're a visa holder, you can actually still get personal insurances. The only limitation you might have is the policy might be issued with a domicile exclusion.
What is that? What are we talking? What's domicile?
So it just means that you're covered in Australia, but if you go overseas, then you're not covered. Well, normally personal insurance actually covers you worldwide once you've actually taken out a policy. So it's not actually too much of a concern for most people unless they're actually moving overseas or if they happen to injure themselves while they're overseas.
Yeah. And the reason for that is because Australia's regardless of what jurisdiction, every insurance policy in a certain jurisdiction is priced according to the statistics of that area. So Australia, we've got an amazing health system, so the likelihood of someone to be able to return back to work is fairly high. So our income protection policies, they're actually incredibly generous compared to worldwide policies. Most of the world don't have income protection the way we do, so we're very fortunate to have it. But it also means that the premium rates will be set based on the fact that if you or I, we injure our backs, we can go and get ongoing treatment in an amazing healthcare system to be able to return to work in the future. And therefore, the insurance company who's paying us to be off work is less likely to pay the claim. So that's why the insurers will put a domicile exclusion on, because if you go and, decide to live in Thailand for the rest of your life, their healthcare system may be very different and to what we've already priced in. And so that's why they'll put those policies, those domicile exclusions on. But if you're an Australian citizen or a permanent resident, then you won't have those kind of exclusions on the policy.
No, you won't. And even like for visa holders that are considering getting insurances, once you do become a permanent resident, we can go to the insurer and have that exclusion removed, and then you're covered worldwide. Yeah,
exactly. And then you can go and return back to your country of origin and spend 3 months there, hanging around family, just visiting friends and family, and you still feeling comfortable and secure that if something happened while you were there, you're covered for that, which is important. Okay, so let's talk more broadly around other insurance policies. So I talked before that it's kind of a mixed match of policies. So if I do have cancer, what other policies can get paid out?
Okay, so if you end up not being able to work as a result of that cancer diagnosis, like either it's causing you to be unwell enough to work or you're actually needing to undergo cancer treatment and you're needing to take a lot of time off of work for that, then you can make an income protection claim. And as I mentioned earlier, with your income protection policy, there will be a specified waiting period on there. So whether it can be like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, etc. So if you're off of work for that period of time and you can't return to work, you can be making an income protection claim. If it turns out to be like at least 3 to 6 months where you're not working and it's starting to look like you're not going to improve, you're not going to get any better, then you can also consider making a total and permanent disability or TPD claim. So that's where two different independent doctors agree that you're totally and permanently disabled and you can't return to work again. And then another type of insurance that could possibly pay out is life insurance. So people might have seen on their Superfund statements terminal illness or something mentioned on their statement. So what that means is if a doctor confirms, yes, you're terminally ill and it meets the time frame that insurer has, then you can also get an early payout of your life insurance. So you can possibly get paid up with all 4 types of insurances if it's a pretty bad case of cancer.
And it is case by case. So if it, just initially, all right, great, you meet again, not great. I need to work on my language.
Yes, you do.
Unfortunately, you meet the definitions of a trauma claim.
Yes.
Here's your $100,000, $400,000, whatever your benefit amount is. Here's your money in your bank account. Okay, you can't return to work for a period of time. You're going through treatment, care. All right, we'll pay you a monthly income to whatever your benefit amount is. And then, okay, over time, your condition means that you can't return to either your own occupation or any occupation, then you may get a TBD payment. Now, it's more likely to be if it's an own occupation TBD.
Yeah.
And we've done plenty of videos on the differences between that. Shout out, we did one with Nat explaining the differences. And so you may not be able to return to your own occupation. And if you can't do your own occupation, but you can go work somewhere else, then you may be eligible for that payment, which is a lump sum payment. And then if it progresses and is really bad, and a doctor says, hey, this is terminal, you've got less than a year or less than 2 years to live, depending on the insurer, then you can get paid out that life insurance policy. Which I've been a part of those claims with a client and a really good friend of mine who, off topic but very on topic, a memory came up on my phone the other day of one of my good friends who we did a terminal illness payment for. So that was a good memory. Me and Jason recorded a video just having a go at another friend. And then so I sent it to that other friend and saying, hey, this is 7 years ago, me and Jason having a go at you. But and for Jason, it was so important for him before he passed away to get that payment out into his bank account. He knew that the money was going to hit his bank account when he passed away.
Yeah.
There was no doubt that it was going to happen. He worked in insurance. He knew how it all worked. But just for him, the peace of mind knowing that the money's in the bank account under that terminal illness payment was really important to him. So, you can get all 4 different types of payments. All right, so let's wrap up. Is there anything we haven't touched on or you think is really important that we kind of mention before we finish up?
Yeah, we've covered everything I wanted to go through. I guess what I wanted to really stress was that don't just make the assumption that if you get sick, that it's just going to be covered by Medicare or private health insurance. It might not be, or you might actually be waiting some time before you'll actually get some help, while something like trauma insurance could provide some immediate assistance. Oh, wait, no, there is one thing I thought about.
Yeah.
So one thing the article did also mention too is they were making suggestions to the person with lymphoma to go overseas for treatment because it's a lot cheaper to get treatment overseas. Now, with a payout of trauma insurance, it's a lump sum payment you get. So you can either use that for treatment here or maybe it might help you get treatment overseas. And I have known of, not personally, but I have heard stories of other advisors telling me of clients that have used trauma claim payments to go overseas to seek treatment that wasn't available in Australia or was a lot more expensive in Australia. So it does give you a lot more options in that regard as well.
Yeah, and I know. I mean, my old circus coach needed to get treatment overseas and he's originally from Bulgaria. He knows the top doctors in Bulgaria because he was like a high-level athlete. And so he knows everyone over there. So he can literally fly over there, get the best treatment because, they know everyone. It's a small country. You kind of know everyone. And so for him, any treatment he needs, he'll go over there, get their doctors and to look at it and then come back into Australia and get further treatment, of course. But they're the type of things that a lot of people you may want to go home. You may feel more comfortable speaking to the doctors in your own native language. And it may, just from a comfort point of view, so having the money in your bank account that's not tied to your private health where you need to be able to claim back on it, but just in your bank account, you may want to go, actually, I want to go to Bulgaria and I want to talk to my friends and speak Bulgarian and know exactly what's going on. Some of those things, trauma insurance just gives you the option.
A lot more flexibility. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been a great episode. Thank you so much, Kat. I appreciate you taking the time today.
All good. Thanks for having me.
If you enjoy this video, which no doubt you did, you can see any other deep dives we've done up on the screen now. Thanks heaps for watching.